Welcome back to the Hubbard's Handmade Shop. I'm Ryan Hubbard.
I'm going to try and do like a very little materials challenge. We need a dog bowl holder to raise it up because our dog Pancake is much taller now than he was. He's only a year old, but he's pretty big already. So anyway, I'm going to try and cut out an area for this to sit in, but as you can probably tell, that's not wide enough. And so what I'm going to do is cut this board down the middle, do some waterfall grain legs, and then support that material across the bottom.
Because of the lockdown situation that we're in, I tried to complete this with just materials that I had on hand. So here you can see me working with some leftover scraps of walnut that were not very big, or maybe I didn't use because it had that bad edge on it. And just trying to make that work. And here I'm working with another piece of walnut that was not going to be wide enough to support the bowl across the bottom. So I cut it in half and added a strip of cherry. And the whole thing is made of walnut and cherry, so it just kind of does a nice job of tying it all together. I really like how this ended up looking in the end. This is where I'm going to incorporate that waterfall grain to both edges, which will just be on the cherry. As you can see, I only made the walnut big enough to be on the leg part. It gives it kind of a interesting floating look across the top where the bowl sits. So then after you've cut the legs off, you just have to remember to flip it over and do another 45-degree cut in the opposite direction, and that should help your grain to line up across the top and down the sides. And then I'm just using the domino to add a support to the 45-degree miter, and this will kind of hold it all together while the glue sets up. I could have used the domino to support this cross piece across the bottom, but honestly it's just easier to throw some pocket hole screws into it. So I got out the jig, busted that together, and now I'm just marking the centers so that this lines up right in the middle of it. There's my awesome oversized calipers, and I think they're hilarious, and so I love using them. Getting everything ready for the glue up, and this is kind of my favorite part of every project because it's like you have all of the pieces ready to go together like a Lego set, and then you get to glue it together and really kind of complete the project. I think this is what a lot of people think that woodworking is just putting the wood together. 75% of the project comes before you actually get to this part. This is just a very small part of the project, and then you have actually finishing the wood with whatever you choose to put on it to make the grain stand out and protect the wood as well, of course. So here I put the bowl in place because this is where it will sit when you set the bowl in it. So I use that to gauge the height of where this cross piece actually needs to sit so the bowl can rest on it, and then put that all in place. And a couple of clamps to hold it together while the glue dries. Whenever I do this waterfall grain with the mitered corners, I like to use a chamfer bit instead of a roundover bit. It kind of gives it a uniform look to have those 45-degree angles throughout the piece. So here I'm just going over, routing all the edges to make them look nice. And then that'll require just a little bit of sanding cleanup. And we're almost to the part where we get to put the final finish on. I sanded everything to 220 grit. Some of it was pre-sanded, like that bottom piece, before I put it in place. It was just easier to sand before I put it in there. And then I grabbed a spray lacquer in each hand and just went to town on this thing. It's beautiful how the grain just pops as you go over it with that finish. And then we just have some of these beauty shots with it in place. My wife's awesome hands putting that bowl in place. Ta-da! It looks really good. I think it matches really well. And then here's the final test of seeing whether or not Pancake likes it. He likes it just fine, but he definitely did not like me getting up in his space while he's eating right here. Thank you very much for joining me for another Hubbard's Handmade video. I hope you and your loved ones are staying safe and trying to find something to do at home while we're all stuck during the pandemic. I hope to see you next time and all of us make it through this okay.